I used to be married to the drummer of Great White, Adi Desbro. And I don't know if any of you remember that band actually was responsible for that Rhode Island fire that killed over 100 people. So it's it was a very traumatic, one of the worst rock band tragedies in history. And but I was married to the drummer, Adi Desbro, and I went out to visit him one time and caught some girls on the tour bus with my husband. And that was that. I went back to California and I started dancing, going to club, working. It was easy money. Oscar kept coming into the club and asking me out. I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know boxing was an Olympic sport. I'm really sorry. I apologize. I didn't. And he kept asking me out. Finally, I agreed to go out with him. And my son Devon was conceived that first night. And I was still married. So I didn't know at the time, but I guess Oscar was on his way up. There were people backing him, and he was getting ready to just. It was around the time he fought Camacho. And I had not heard of him, but I thought the band, I kept everything confidential. So we decided we were just going to keep it out of the tabloids, out of the courts, out of everything. So that was one of the biggest mistakes that I could have made, because once I did try to get established relationship between Devin and his dad, Richard Schaefer came in the picture. Richard Schaefer became the CEO of Golden Boy and basically tried to pay my ex-husband Adi to get custody of my son with Oscar. This case went on for 3 years. I fought it. Finally, Oscar made a public announcement saying, yes, this is my son. And that case just poof ended. Now, I knew that I wanted my son to have his father in his life. I also knew that the only way to probably do that is to give them something in common, which would have been boxing. And not that I wanted my son to be a boxer, but I wanted him to know everything about his dad so that when the day came and they did connect, which I knew that would happen eventually, that there would be love for his dad and not animosity and not hate. So I never spoke ill about Oscar at all. I did speak ill about him online. I bashed him every chance I got, but my son didn't read those things, and and I tried to keep him. I sent Christmas gifts to my son in Oscar's name. I I took him over to the De La Hoya family. They established a relationship with Devin. Everything seemed to be going good except where was Oscar. So then I decided, you know what? I need to get close. I need to be able to go to a fight, and maybe once he sees his son, my thinking was, a man looks into his son's eyes, maybe something clicks. So, and everybody can tell me no answer is an answer. Oscar doesn't want anything to do with him. I spent years trying to get information to Oscar about my son Devin, and eventually it did happen. They got together, and Oscar and I talked, and he explained to me that he had been going through, he had been dealing with some demons in his life. And now it's not over for Oscar. I mean, he's still dealing with stuff, but actually, all the other children, Oscar doesn't exactly have a good relationship with, but Devin, he does.
When was the last time you saw Don King?
The last time I saw Don King was in
Yeah.
Anaheim. That day that Omar had told me that information right before Omar's fight. I think that the reason they enjoyed working with me and with Omar at the beginning is because he knew that I was trying to get my son to see Oscar, and he thought it was funny that Oscar was running away from fatherhood, and he wanted to help me be able to get into that fight and get up face to face and be and laugh about it. He thought it was a funny thing that Oscar was going to have to face his son. You know, I mean, it wasn't funny. It was very emotional. It all worked out in the end for my son, but that was Don King's more or less reason for helping me at the time.
A fan has kind of a funny question here that you don't have to answer, but he's asking about if you ever saw those pictures of Oscar in drag.
Yeah, I told my son that that was a Halloween costume. And you know what I find ironic about that is that the last Ryan Garcia weigh-in, if you notice, that girl that showed up, she was wearing that same fishnet costume. It makes you wonder who she really is and who she represents too. My goals have been accomplished. My daughter's in law school. My son's working at Golden Boy with his dad. So I don't really have much to bitch about anymore. So I'm just kind of like, living life, enjoying it.